Coming up tonight on YCN News, a case of measles in New Hampshire prompts a warning. It's another no vote for casinos in the Granite State. And Vermont's Bernie Sanders inches closer to a presidential run. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, April 29th. I'm Abby Peel, and welcome to YCN News. That measles is a highly communicable disease is being driven home today in a warning from the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. An international traveler recently visited Massachusetts and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. This person later was diagnosed with measles. State epidemiologist Dr. Benjamin Chan says in a news release his office is still looking into the case and that DHHS does not expect a widespread measles outbreak as happened in California earlier this year. That's because most of the people who live in New Hampshire already are vaccinated against measles. The only known public exposure site in New Hampshire was the Flatbread Company restaurant in Portsmouth on April 20th between 3 and 6 p.m. Chan says it is possible there could be cases in New Hampshire related to travel by this person. Plus, he says it's a good time for people to check their own vaccination status if they were born in or after 1957. For another year in a row, the New Hampshire House has voted against legalizing casino gambling in the state, the Associated Press reports. Democrats and Republicans voted against the measure, which Governor Maggie Hassan favors. Democratic Senator Lou D'Alessandro told the AP he was shocked by the vote. He has been the lead sponsor of bringing the casino gambling to New Hampshire. Both he and Hassan agree money from regulated gambling could help the state. Both chambers of the New Hampshire legislature have now passed a bill that would allow anyone to carry a concealed weapon without a license. Governor Maggie Hassan is on record saying she will veto this bill, Senate Bill 116. Hassan says the law that's stood long in place afforded residents their Second Amendment rights and protected public safety. At the State House, though, senators earlier approved of the bill met with more support from state representatives today, who voted 212 to 150 in support of SB 116, reports the union leader. Coming up on YCN News, it's not just Vermont's Bernie Sanders who may run for president, plus weather and sports are all coming up when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Abby Peel. In Vermont and national political news, it's looking more likely that U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders will run for president, that according to the Associated Press. Sanders earlier said he would announce on April 30th, tomorrow, if he will seek the 2016 top political office. Sanders, an independent, now meets with Democrats in Congress. AP is reporting Sanders will run as a Democrat, possibly throwing a wrench into the plans by former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Clinton also served as a U.S. Senator from New York. As of today, she is the only Democrat to have officially declared her run for president. Speaking further of politics, former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, Carly Fiorina, also may run for president. Fiorina never has held a political office. If she gets into the presidential race, it will be as a Republican and as the second woman seeking this office. Coming up next on YCN News, learn how you can spruce up your home and help your community at the same time. Kearsarge Chronicle host Lynn Solomon and her guest, Mary Beth Angeli from Habitat for Humanity, explain. Their talk is coming up next when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Mike Pizzone. Things began a little overcast this morning, but it was nice to see that sun shining as the day progressed. Skies will become mostly cloudy tonight with a low of around 43 degrees and relatively calm winds. Tomorrow will be very similar to what we saw today, with partly sunny skies and a high of 63 during the day before bottoming out at about 43 degrees tomorrow evening. Friday won't be as bright, with mostly cloudy skies and a high of 56 degrees during the day and a low of about 40 Friday evening. Now let's take a look at our community calendar to see what's happening in the area. The Ladies Auxiliary of the Croydon Fire Department will host its weekly bingo night tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the Claremont Senior Center off Maple Avenue. The event is open to anyone ages 18 or older. The First Congregational Church on Pleasant Street in Claremont, New Hampshire is hosting its annual May breakfast on Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, donuts, muffins, and much more will be available. Cost is $7 for adults, $5 for children ages 2 through 12, and free for children under 2 years old. The 59th annual Apple Blossom Cotillion will be held Friday and Saturday beginning at 7:30 p.m. at the Dressel Gymnasium in Springfield, Vermont. Tickets for Friday's show are $10 in advance or $12 at the door, and tickets for Saturday's finale are $15 in advance or $18 at the door. The Cotillion is a fundraiser for Springfield Hospital. We've seen a lot of exciting action on the playing field so far this spring, but nothing tops yesterday's dramatic win by the Bellows Falls baseball team in its showdown with rival Windsor. Jake Streeter's perfectly executed suicide squeeze with one down in the bottom of the 7th inning lifted Bellows Falls to a walk-off 6-5 victory against a Windsor team that was just 3 outs away from earning its first win of the season. The Terriers headed into their final at-bat trailing by 1 before a leadoff double from Austin Stack to left field for what was his 3rd hit of the day, and a timely sacrifice bunt from Carson Fulham left a potential tying run just 90 feet away. Zach Streeter knotted the score up at 5-all moments later when this double to right-plated Stack, and after back-to-back walks to load the bases, Jake Streeter pulled off the unlikely squeeze play to help his team clinch a 3-1 start to the season. Windsor led 5-3 heading into the 4th inning behind the arm of starting pitcher Nick Kapuzinski, as the junior surrendered just 1 earned run on 4 hits through 6 innings of work while striking out 6. But the Yellow Jackets couldn't add to their lead once Zach Streeter was called upon to throw in the 4th, allowing no runs on 1 hit and 2 walks. Streeter said after the game he had all the confidence in the world that his brother Jake would be able to execute the game-winning bunt.
They intentionally walked Brady, and I knew they wanted a 4, so they loaded the base, and he said, "Hey, be ready for something," as though the squeeze is coming on. So I knew he was going to get the job done because we practice it all the time, and I was just hoping he wasn't going to hang me up there.
Streeter added that his team has both the talent and coaching to get to where it wants to be come the end of the season, and that he and his teammates need to continue working hard to accomplish their goals.
We all just have to keep doing our jobs. We have plenty of talent around the field, and we got a great coach, so we just got to do our jobs, and hopefully things fall into place.
I also spoke with Bellows Falls head coach Bob Lockerbie, who said he feels for Windsor after coming up short after playing such a strong game.
That's such a heartbreaking game to lose, and it's such an exhilarating game to win. But that's why we play, because you play to win and lose, and that's why we keep score. I've been on both sides, so I know exactly how Jamie feels, and he's a class act. That Windsor team was making all the plays, and that's why this game was the game that it was. That catch by the center fielder? I mean, that could have been the difference in this ball game today by any means, and the pitching performance that they got. He was changing speeds well and locating the ball well, and we weren't getting good pieces of the ball.
Lockerbie added that while the game's final play may have come as a surprise to Windsor, it's something his Terriers are more than used to practicing.
We bunt a lot in practice, and I tell them you never know when you're going to need it. And one thing that is for sure, when you put a ball on the ground, the other team has to make a play.
Both teams will head back into action tomorrow, as Bellows Falls will travel to face Hartford, and the Yellow Jackets will host Burn Burton. The Springfield baseball team earned its first win of the season yesterday, holding off Black River with help from 5 1/3 solid innings of relief by John Hildreth. Hildreth allowed just 3 hits and 2 walks while striking out 4. Ed Shambu, Ben Tubbs, and Zach Tubbs all finished with multiple hits for the Cosmos. Springfield will look to make it 2 in a row tomorrow when it welcomes Pulteney to town. The Fall Mountain softball team earned its 2nd straight win yesterday, improving to 3-2 with its narrow win over Kearsarge. Peyton Alberg provided what proved to be the game-winning run for the Wildcats, crushing a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 6th inning. Leah Shaw earned the win from the circle, surrendering 7 hits and 6 walks while striking out 8. Maddie Fulsick struck out 10 in a complete game effort for Kearsarge. Both teams are back in action today as the Wildcats are at Bellows Falls and the Cougars are taking on Mascoma at home. The Lebanon boys lacrosse team earned its 2nd win in as many days yesterday, capitalizing on a 4-goal effort from Nate Durham to improve to 2-1 on the season. Jordan Hammond tallied 2 goals for the Raiders, while Michael Fleury and Ethan Diderami each added single tallies. Kyler Tang picked up the win in net, finishing with 6 saves. The Raiders will try and earn their 3rd straight win on Friday when they host a winless Stevens team. That does it for YCN Sports. I'm Mike Pizzone.
Thanks, Mike. Capital Connections host John O'Connor continues his discussion with New Hampshire State Representative Karen Ebel. Please join us now for this interview.
The YCN News continues in a moment.